All rise for the RankKing's court. Court is in session.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is Tuesday. Welcome, 6:30, to another episode of the RankKing's Court. We got Bo in here. We got Derek. Boys, how we doing tonight?
Pretty good, Austin. Happy to be back.
The people are banging down the door, Austin.
That's what I heard. The peasants are riled and they are willing to.
We can call them the townsfolk.
No, we'll call them the townsfolk.
Call them the
Let's do it. A little less
Townsfolk.
offensive.
Yeah,
A little less
The
offensive.
give 'em some
townies.
Because I think as you brought up, Dre is a peasant. The
Yeah.
people are the town, like the people of the town. I don't know. Is there a word
Townies.
for
Townies.
Townies? Wow.
Yeah.
I think that's worse. Let's go with townsfolk. Townies are so. But yes, everybody knows that peasants like Dre are at the bottom, and townsfolk are at the middle, and then there's your royalty such as myself
And me.
I'm related to
Any
royalty.
We're right by your side.
Yeah, you guys are my little.
Maybe even above you sometimes.
I'm the jester. I'm Ron Burgundy.
I'm Ron Burgundy.
But yes, this is what I've heard is that our sports comedy section got a little on the fiery side with the comments and everything. So what do we all have? Like, what's going on here? Because I think that someone said "Remember the Titans" was a sports comedy.
So there was
Yeah.
something, and I will take partial credit. Thank you for the 100 bits, Denny. 50
Hey,
that goes
Denny.
to charity, even though I just
Hey.
literally typed out a thing talking shit on you.
He didn't see that.
No, he donated before. I wrote "The Ranking Does Sports Movies" in the caption,
Yeah.
but the image clearly said sports comedies.
Yeah.
So a lot of people instantly were like, "Remember the Titans isn't in
Yeah.
there?" Like jumped in. It's like there's a lot of movies.
They gotta read.
Yeah.
Read the words.
What?
We know who said
Yeah,
it.
we know who
said it.
Flan. We know.
I wasn't gonna say names, but
we know Flan.
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 But yeah, a lot of people agreed with most of them, but they said you missed a couple.
Well, I'd say
So.
according to the comments, there were a lot more disagreements.
Yeah,
than,
I want to make you
yeah.
feel good. I didn't want to ruin you.
Well, I mean, it's townsfolk, so I'm not,
It's a
their,
town.
their comments are comments, they don't hurt my feelings, it's just that, it's another voice of that said voiceless group that needs to be heard. So I completely understand it. They're just wrong, and it's understandable to think that way. But
I want to say I'm wearing something that Josh got me. Austin's wearing something that I technically got him. Jacket. That jacket used to be mine.
Oh, you gave it. It's hand me down.
I give Austin a lot of fly lit gear. Denny coming in with the
He's
one,
got that
2, 3,
matching
4,
hat and
500
t-shirt, too.
bits, 250. Those are going to charity.
All right,
Thank you, Denny.
I see you, Danny.
I like the orange tonight, Austin.
Oh yeah, well, we'll get into our topic later. We'll find out why I'm wearing the orange and the black with it. But yes, a lot of miscues on the sports comedy side of everything. And guys, there's a lot of them are in that category, and there's just a lot of them that are going to be thrown around. Now, I understand people are like, oh, he probably really likes Adam Sandler. He puts 3 of those movies in there. Like, what's going on here? I'm a decent Adam Sandler fan. I'm just looking at the ratings and everything and how they do. So,
I mean, they're good movies. You didn't get those
there's
ones wrong.
a lot of points you're going to put on here. You're either going to be like a big Adam Sandler person with the movies, or you're going to be a big Will Ferrell person with a lot of these movies. You got Blades of Glory, you got Kicking and Screaming. One that I put in there, it's... there's a lot of them that are going in there, with semi. I don't know why I was boggling with that. in my
Josh
head.
says that was a spot-on imitation of him.
But yes, I do good impersonations of voices. That's not one of my best, but yeah.
I thought it was pretty good.
It was all right.
So, yes, there are a lot of movies that are going to be left off the list. I think maybe a lot of people might have a problem with maybe number 1 that I put on the list with Major League. I don't know. To me, there's a lot of references we even use in today's, world that we use from that Wild Thing is still a song on commercials and everything. Like it's still a popular thing, and you're not going to forget that.
Name one commercial.
I just said the Geico, the Geico, where the motorcyclist is like, Wild Thing, and then, like, you owe us money, Wild Thing.
You know that was a song before that movie, right?
Oh, I know. The
No, they
movie
made
didn't
it.
sense.
No,
I
they made it
will
after the
fight
movie.
Votesh right
It was like
now.
Mighty Ducks.
That's a good point. Yeah, the Mighty Ducks did make up the Mighty Ducks.
Oh, but I'm doing a lot of comedies in here. I'm seeing, miscues like your fantasy football lineup fam.
Yeah, Denny's trying. It's not really working out for him.
Yeah, I don't know. He keeps putting this on. He gave me little jabs and everything in last night's show too, and that didn't really do it. So.
Did you kill Josh for no reason?
No, Josh wants you to impersonate him saying, "Austin killed me for no reason."
Oh,
in his
gotcha.
best Josh voice. Austin, you want to give us that?
Okay. I see what's going on here. Austin killed me for no reason.
It's actually not bad. It's actually not terrible.
It was actually pretty good.
Yeah, I've seen a lot worse. That I like that.
Well, maybe it's the help from my ginger snap Bud Light seltzer that I got.
Could
here,
be.
Could be.
Could be. There's a snap in the comments, and there's a.
I also
snap
said that was pretty good.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Thanks, man. So I'm glad that he's back. Doing what he's doing. Are we ready to move on to today's topic?
One moment. We gotta say where we're at.
Yeah, where are we?
Vo remembered this time. Look at that.
That's because the paper's right in front of me.
Oh.
Let's do it.
All right. The RankKing's Court is live today from the Union Fitness Studios.
Boom, boom.
Located on the North Shore of Pittsburgh, Union Fitness is more than a traditional gym. It is a place where you can transform yourself inside and out. With a variety of classes based around fitness, yoga, strength, and performance training.
Yeah, tough word.
Tough word. At Union Fitness, they believe that it is their duty to hold themselves and their clients to a higher standard. They practice what they preach and uphold the values that make Union Fitness the community that it is. Go to unionfitness.com today to sign up for a consultation. Through Union, there is strength. And our king is strong, right?
You don't
King
have
is
to
always-
ask that. It just is.
Yeah, this is basic knowledge.
Denny wants to know if Vo can read.
Sometimes, Denny, sometimes. Big words give me trouble.
You know what? Peasants can't read. That's the one thing that I say. But Vo is not a peasant, and Vo is able to read that. So there we go.
Exactly.
So, but yes, last week was Sports Comedy Boys. Today, we are talking about probably one of the best video game franchises in at least, one since I was born. And that is Crash Bandicoot. Now, the original game came out, I think, 2 years after I was born, so 1996. And ever since then, Crash has been known to be the marsupial of video games, right? Like, the guy, he wears pants, spins shit, and just tries to always collect that Wumpa fruit, them crystals, and those gems. There's everything about it that makes it a very popular video game franchise. Boys, we've played Crash before, right?
We
Big
have.
Crash guy.
Long
Yeah,
time
big-
ago, but we have.
Yeah. Some call me Crash.
Yeah, Crash was my nickname growing up.
Mine was Bandicoot.
Man, okay. That's an interesting nickname, but
Yeah.
I'll take advice from it. But yes, this is probably a big thing because, as we all know, the latest game has been released, Crash Bandicoot 4, for Xbox and PS5. I think it's been released for PS5. But yes, the new game is out. I have not had a chance to play it yet, and I thought, why not build a show around this particular topic?
Interesting.
So,
I like it.
It's not a bad idea.
I'm here for it.
yeah. Again, it's supposed to take place right after Crash 3. This is the first game that has been put out since Crash 3.
Big fan
going
of putting
with
out.
the storyline. So, I'm excited for this, boys. I know there's a lot of different styles of gameplay, of characters, and all around that make this franchise great. So let's start it out, right? What's our first radical ranking, though?
Our first radical ranking tonight is the hardest Crash Bandicoot boss fights.
Now, everybody loves a good boss fight. Everybody. But sometimes the levels and the bosses in general seem to be a little too difficult. I mean, again, listen, like some of the games that I played, like I was 10 years old, and
Yeah.
some of them I have had trouble beating to this day.
He still hasn't beat him.
I'm so confused. I thought he was a good king. I thought he was a triumphant king.
Oh, I am. I just make people do my work for me. That's how Kings work. So.
As his brothers
yes.
play the game.
Yeah, so Ian and
No,
Keaton,
no,
Ian and Keaton
it
are
was-
really good at this game.
That's what it is.
We all were. But yes,
It's a team effort.
Ian and I both have Crash Twins, not the Twin Sanity, the Insanity trilogy that was remastered for Xbox and PlayStation from its first original counterparts. So all 3 games on one game, and basically all I'm trying to do now, as I've been playing it lately, is I've been trying to just go back and smash all the boxes and collect all the gems.
Yeah, the boxes was the big one for me.
Yeah.
He's still on level 1.
Do you know what happens if you hit all the boxes?
I have no idea.
Wow.
I guess you win the game.
So for anybody that doesn't know, Crash Bandicoot is a left to right sprinter where you basically are trying to get on each level up until some of the later games from the beginning to the end of the map while staying alive through an array of obstacle courses. There are through the Wampa fruits, which the Wampa fruits help you get points and accumulate life, basically, and boxes that give you Wampa fruits.
Okay.
If you hit every box, there is a gem at the end of the map. And Austin, are you getting into anything about that? Am I spoiling anything that you're going to be talking about tonight just before I keep
you're
going?
fine.
If you get all of those crystals, especially in the first couple games, there's like a good guy to the bad guy that needs all of those crystals to beat the bad guy. And it's supposed to, because like you're collecting these crystals for the bad guy, but if you hit all the boxes, you collect all the white crystals for the good guy. And it's a hidden thing that you don't really find out about until later. So then you have to go back and do it. So it's really, really a cool part of the game.
Gotcha.
Interesting part of it all, a little bit of trivia. The first Crash game actually had 0 crystals that you had to get. Basically, the original Crash game was just going from level to level, trying to ascend to, I think, save which is like your girlfriend that it's supposed to be, Crash's girlfriend that Cortex.
Smash, yeah.
Yeah, who is the bad guy steals. And then we get into, the second game ever that starts implying crystals and gems, and those carry out into what the game was therefore designed to be.
Okay.
So,
fun fact about the movie Crash starring Keanu Reeves, it hit $9 million in opening weekend in the box office.
There you go.
There you go.
So, fun trivia.
Well, we got a question for you from Rock Hockey 20. What are you
Rock
drinking?
Hard 20.
Oh, I'm drinking the Big Moose Winter Ale.
Ooh.
It's not too bad.
What are you drinking, Austin?
He already said what he's drinking.
Well, not on air.
Yeah.
Did he?
Yeah, I am drinking a
I zoned
Bud
out.
Light Seltzer Ginger Snap. The holidays around the corner. Not my favorite, I'll say that.
Yeah.
But you know what? You have some hits, you have some misses. This is probably right in between. So, nothing terrible. Nothing
Derek, what
bad.
are you drinking?
I'm drinking antifreeze or permafrost. The permafrost
Permafly.
Saranac. No
But
free
yes.
ads. Saranac sucks.
No,
Unless they want to sponsor us, and they're awesome. But
We'll edit that out whichever way they go.
we'll send an email after this, and whichever way it goes, put that one in.
So yes, the
Ginger
orange
is
and black
bad.
is out for Crash Bandicoot. Let's get into these hard bosses. Number 5, guys, is Crunch Bandicoot from Crash Bandicoot: The Wrath of Cortex.
Perfect.
This was the final boss level of this entire game. So naturally, you're going to have issues with it in general. It's actually, I think, one of the only boss fights that didn't have, that you didn't face Cortex.
Yeah.
In essence. So the story of it goes along that, Cortex creates this bigger, stronger version of Crash, and then needs a power source to imply the evil tendencies of it. So he has Uka Uka, which is the evil
Uka
mask that helps him out, resurrect 4 ancient evil masks known as the Elementals: fire, wind, water, and rock. Yes.
Yeah,
And-
Avatar stuff, yeah.
Yeah, essentially. So every single level you had to face Crunch when he had one certain type of mask. This one, with the help of Cortex, he has all of them at his disposal. And essentially it's basically almost like a memory game. You have to basically go and dodge obstacles, and then you have to remember when it starts, because it all goes back to the beginning. I think rocks fell in the first one, and then you had to move out of a certain way because the wind would take you towards something. And it progressively got harder and harder and harder to the point where they were going faster and they were going at a rate that you just couldn't catch up. Very frustrating when I had to do when I was in like I think my early teen, or not even like probably like when I was like 10 years old trying to do this. Very, very hard to say the least. And I know that Ian and Keaton will at least back me up on it because they know my frustrations when I was playing it. So,
How many controllers did you break?
I was actually not a controller breaker.
Oh, okay.
That was Ian. Ian was always the.
I believe
You know,
it.
fun,
I
fun
believe
fact about the Moorhead household, though,
no,
they
that-
never had AA batteries, so
That-
PlayStation was always their favorite. Yeah.
Mhm.
They literally, I would walk to the gas station, buy batteries, and come back and have to bring my own batteries over. Yeah.
Yep. So now we just use battery rechargers,
Yeah,
so we don't
that's
have
all
to
you need.
buy any more batteries.
Yep.
So, but yes, Derek, that's not a problem anymore, so we're all good. Just so you're aware.
2020. it came
So
to
you can
fuck
go
it
back
up.
over now. is what
Yeah,
he's
I've been
saying, yeah.
boycotting.
He's been boycotting
Yeah.
all these years. He hasn't
Yeah,
been. In
tell
your
my
house.
aunt and uncle I'm very sorry. I'm coming home.
But yes, a very hard boss indeed. Eventually, we know that Crunch goes good, so he's no longer evil only for this game. We move on from 5 to 4, though, which is Engine from Crash Bandicoot Cortex Strikes Back. The first ever introduction we get to the scientist Engine. Again, not in the first game, as the sidekick of Cortex will be introduced later from the first game on this. But yes, Engine was essentially the kind of like maniac for all of Cortex's robots and designs and everything. And almost every single boss fight that you have with Engine, he has some sort of mech suit.
Yeah, because he's a little shit.
Yeah. He was never the brawn. He was always the brain at trying to figure out. I mean, the guy literally has a rocket attached to his head, which I don't know if that's physically possible that you can do, but it's game, and we're not going to get into that. But through this one especially, it was I think it was the last boss you had to face before you had to face Cortex. So naturally, the first boss of Engine, you have no idea what to expect. I thought that when you win, like when you like beat the first part of it, that you were done. Sadly, it transforms into a whole new mech, and now you're like completely taken off guard. I don't know how many times I actually got frustrated and was about to throw my controller because I would get to one part only to have to start all the way back at the beginning.
Yep.
Because of that. And that's the fail-safe of some of these, is that the save was very, very frustrating, especially since for the longest time, especially the PlayStation, PS never knew this, but PS2 memory cards never worked for the PlayStation. And that I thought was just like a very like weird thing. Like, why would I have to? But it's all in the sense of, buying other memory cards and everything for how that worked.
Yeah, I remember I had like 4 memory cards.
Yeah,
I would
we had
put
we had one
stickers and
for each,
number
like,
them
game
and everything.
stuff. Yeah, it was frustrating. Now I bought a terabyte hard drive because Xbox ruined my life.
Yeah, I was gonna say I need to have some more gigabytes of my data, because if I'm gonna get this new Call of Duty, it's gonna take up like the whole damn thing plus another one.
Yep.
So gotta love tech, boys. But we move on from 4 to 3 to Cortex's original sidekick, original mass maniac, and that was Dr. Nitrous Brio.
So Denny writes in, you definitely threw a controller or two from this game. Don't lie. Austin was the eldest, which if you know anything about eldest of brothers, if he would have thrown a controller, the payback would have been much worse than either of the younger brothers throwing a controller, so he did not throw controllers.
He had to be a role model.
Well, they would have, Terry would have beat his ass.
Yeah, exactly. Why am I paying money for controllers and you're breaking them? Yeah.
Plus, when they were plugged into the system, like that whole system could go if you throw it hard enough. You didn't want that.
So I also love how Denny can see into the past for some reason, but couldn't go back and save his lineup from being crushed from me the one day. So it's fine. It's fine. But we move on from 4 to 3 to Dr. Nitrous Brio. Derek knows that from one of the games that we played that Brio was one of Ian's favorite characters.
Yep.
He loved just even saying his name. It was hilarious. But the original Crash game, Brio was one of the hardest bosses, especially from either the original Crash Bandicoot or now the revised version by Vicarious Visions. they're both challenging. They're both so hard.
Yup.
And a lot of it has to do, again, with memory. For instance, Brio, the first part, he would throw purple and green potions at you. And the hardest part about that is that the purple ones were almost thrown willy-nilly and basically with no direction. Like, he would just toss them, and you would have to be like, shit, and just try to maneuver.
Try to outrun it.
Yeet.
Yeah, exactly like that. And the green ones, were meant for a certain space that you would like eventually have to hit back at him in order to do that. Then comes the difficulty when all of the chemicals that Brio was ingesting transform him into basically the fucking Incredible Hulk. So where he's not the little like scientist anymore, he's big brain brawn. So every time for that now, when he comes near you, you had to jump on his head. The problem with it is the hit marker was so off that if you missed it by almost a centimeter, you died.
Yeah.
And you would have to wait until he was generally in your face in order for you to jump. And me, being a little anxious with video games and having sweat on the controllers for how long, sometimes I got a little scared and sometimes I jumped too quick. And that costed me how many times? But yes, this in the game, in the original and in the Vicarious Visions redone version, both of them are exceptionally hard to beat. I don't recommend it unless you're gonna, again, have melt. Like, the original Crash in general is one of the hardest video games to beat.
Yeah, very much so.
Still to this day, generations of gamers have been pissed at this game for how long, just for the mechanics of it. So the one boss, is gonna have the same thing, but it's not the last boss from this game. As we move on to number 2, which is Dr. Neo Cortex in the original Crash Bandicoot game. Man, this was just a pain in the ass. Like, this sucked. This boss fight was awful. You're essentially on top of the building that you're supposed to be in. Either that or you're on like a blimp. I want to say you're on one of the two, because you're on a blimp facing the building, and Cortex is on his hoverboard shooting his ray gun at you, and all of these different mechanics are going into it.
I never played.
You have to like essentially hit the one ray back at him.
Yeah.
But it's all mixed and mashed that you don't know when it's going to come. And again, essentially just trying to memorize and maneuver everything that's coming near you. It's hard. And a lot of the times these levels before have taken a lot of your lives out. So you're essentially going into this with, not less than 100%. Yeah. And I would hate to have to restart when you would die and you would have 4 lives, which in general is 5 because 0 counts as a life in this. So it's frustrating, to say the least. And definitely the hardest Cortex boss, I would say.
Smalls writes in ranking, more like doesn't know a thing. Troll Smalls out. Got him. Still here because I love Austin.
There you go. Thank you.
There you go. There you go. Thank you.
I was like, okay, that's fine. But then I was like, oh yeah, I
It was just messing.
Thanks, Smalls. But yes, the whole issue with that was just the huge memorization with everything and trying to figure out where exactly these beams are going to go, what type of beams they're going to be. And you don't have much room. Yeah, I don't know if when you guys are looking at the thing, that's all the room you have to run on the blimp. So it is very hard of trying to figure out where you want to be positioned. Yeah. It's terrible. I wouldn't recommend it. It's awful. So, but it's not number 1.
It's not.
Boys.
Gas.
This is the hardest
is that a gas?
one by far. Number 1 is Dingo Dial from Crash 3 Warped.
The best game.
Yes. This was actually our introduction to Dingo Dial in the games. He's essentially a Dingo Dial with a flamethrower trying to eat a penguin, and you're like, fuck that, animal rights. I'm not going to let him do that shit. So you step in.
Exactly. Dingo Dial is technically an animal, too.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Cannibalism. So.
Cannibalism.
which I know, and it's
So
not. It's not
that's
to
exactly
say that.
that's exactly what
I promise,
10-year-old
it's not to
Austin
say
was
that.
talking
I
about.
see
Yeah,
what you did.
yeah.
But
Well,
yes,
animal on animal action there.
So then he proceeds to try
Yeah.
to burn you, toast you, and eat you. And the problem with this one is that the mechanics of this level were so off that it was so infuriating. He is separated from you by 3 crystal walls, and he is shooting different styles of his flamethrower at you.
And the walls are rotating counter.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes. The first time you have to go right, and he is shooting balls of fire up to the left, and you have to avoid every one of those going down. And then he eventually gets frustrated and shoots the crystals,
It's
to
super
which
awesome.
then you swindle your way in and hit him. But then you have to run out before, because his flamethrower does like a little explosion, and if it hits you, then you're dead.
And not all the crystals get knocked, so you have to
Yeah.
wiggle your way in, and it's rotating. It's really good.
Wiggle your way
really
out.
good one.
And then
I would
every
never
one
beat
of
this.
Yeah.
I would never beat this one.
No, it's tough. Smalls with
Smalls,
300 bits. Thank you, buddy.
40 bits, thank you.
Thanks,
Yes.
Smalls.
Mwah.
And every point of this after changes. Then you have what used to be like 1 ball of fire each would go to about 3. And then you would have to book it across the style. It would go one way, then one way with the double, and then rotating ways. This was insanely hard to beat. Probably costed me about 25 lives, I think, the first time I ever
for
did
sure.
this. This was a pain in the ass to do. But it was interesting to hear at the end, because he would, after he beat him, he'd be like, "Yeah, thrash me, mate." Yeah.
He had
It's
an
just-
accent.
Accent.
Oh, I'm a dingo.
It's always good when video game characters have accents like that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah. But here we go. That was the top 5 hardest Crash Bandicoot boss fights. I wanted to do levels at one of these points, but I think that would be just too hard, because,
So
obviously all of the Crash Bandicoot original levels would be on here if that was the case. They were such a pain in the ass. It was unreal. Anyone that would know the Sky Castle level in the original Crash knows what I'm talking about. That was one of the most infuriating levels to ever do. Some people still haven't beaten it today. It's unreal. So,
By some people, do you mean you?
no.
Yeah, it's definitely.
It was me. That was me yesterday. So,
He finally beat it.
finally beat it. But yes, radical ranking 1 down from the hardest Crash Bandicoot boss fights. Now, which a lot of people might be a little alarmed that I was saving it to the end, but the next radical ranking are the best Crash Bandicoot games.
I feel like this is where people are going to disagree with you at.
I don't know. We'll see. This is an interesting one, because this has the potential to be like a top 10 ranking, which I've done in the past. I've known that with you guys, but I've wanted to look back and
Oh, Denny.
Denny's solidifying his place at the top right now, just flexing a little bit on everyone. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 700 bits coming in from Denny. Sorry, Smalls, that shatters your hope of getting the record today.
Yeah. Unless he
He's the
fires
hype.
back.
He's going for that hype train.
Yeah, so for him to get the hype train, he would need some other people to join in with him. The hype train is a group effort here. I do not foresee Denny ever taking my current hype train conductor away from me.
Sounds like a challenge.
Big fan of it.
Sounds
Yeah,
like a
well, he
challenge.
would need Smalls to start helping him out, and Josh, and that's just not happening. So,
No.
I am
We'll
the
see
conductor.
if that ever happens, boys.
I am the train king.
I am the train king. We have the ranking and the train king.
I need to print a shirt of that. Train King. But yes, boys. Radical ranking number 2. We are going into the best Crash Bandicoot games. Let's start off with probably, I want to say, was the first Crash game that I started out with.
Really?
Yes. Number
I can foresee
5
that.
was Crash Bash.
This was the one with more minigame based, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
It was entirely, it wasn't Mario Party, but it was essentially
Closer, yeah.
Okay.
The premise of it goes as simply as this. There's not really a storyline. It's that the 2 masks, Aku Aku and Uka Uka, try to have a proper sportsmanship game between the 2 of them to see who is better. And in order to do that, they summon their champions, so to speak, and sadly, Crash and Coco are the only ones on Aku Aku's side. So Uka Uka has to give 2 of his players up in order to do that. And I want to say it was Tiny and man, I have to look back at it.
That sounds right.
Yeah, Tiny was one of them, and I want to say because Brio wouldn't be, because Brio was with Cortex. Maybe it was Cola Kong. Maybe. I want to see. But this was also the first game that gave us Rillaroo, the gorilla, which we never see again in the entire franchise. So, but yes, the whole premise of it is basically mini game based, which has the same concept as a normal Crash game. You have 5 levels, and then once you beat those levels, you go on to a boss level. And a lot of the times you could do this single player.
Hey, I'm just giving Denny the thing he wants, which is a hype train going on. That's 500 bits, Denny. I tossed it up there for you to try to get the hype train conductor.
Hype train incoming.
It's your job to get everyone else to help you out. We're 94% already to hype train level number 1.
Oh, there we go.
There we go, Denny.
Ask and you shall receive.
500 bits from Denny coming in here. Sorry to cut you off there, Austin. The hype train, Matt Christopher, my man, thank you for tuning in. The hype train is a consistent number of donations or subs that we get from the channel, and the more, the quicker it goes, the more that the chat receives things. So you'll unlock emotes. For example, let me see if I can get to trying to see. There are certain emotes you can get with just the hype train. I believe that some stuff like that. Oh, here it is. So the 2 I'm putting in there are because we reached the hype train last week. We're up there with level 2. It also gives the person who donates the most the conductor symbol. So I have the conductor symbol from the last time. So
Denny's going for it. He's trying to get
Denny with the 800 bits again. I had 1,300 last night, down to 1,100. Didn't use any question mark. Matt, I do not know about that, my friend. But the hype train goes with subs. You can gift subs or use bits. We are, oh my God, Denny coming in with 200 more. We are 78% of the way to level 3. I believe level 3 is the highest we've ever been. So back to the show, Austin.
yeah.
Sorry to cut you off. I just want to say you
Yeah.
guys are the most concurring show with hype trains.
When the hype train comes, you don't
choo
stop
choo,
it.
mother lucka. A choo choo.
So
78%.
With this, boys, again, essentially minigame based. And this was the first Crash game that I ever played, because I remember that we got it from our grandparents, I believe. Ian and I played the shit out of this game, but we never, ever, at least with him and I, we never, ever beat it.
Yeah.
This was always a struggle one, because you would have certain mini games that were annoying and you just couldn't beat.
Yeah.
So, but yes. Crash Bash, number 5. We go to number 4, which is probably one of the best transitions.
Oh my God.
Denny
with the 500 bits,
100%.
sending us to level 3 of the hype train here.
Level 3
Abby's
already.
gonna kill you. Shout out to By the Wayside Coffee.
Sponsored by the Wayside Coffee. Yeah,
I love that it's the
Level
Deke shrug
3.
after the hype train. I need to figure out all that. Yeah. All right, Oz, keep going, brother. Choo
Because you're the conductor.
I'm still the conductor until this ends. Once this ends, Denny will be the conductor.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Level. Well, now you got me caught on the levels now. Number 4.
Level 4.
Number 4 for the best Crash games of all time is PS2 and Xbox's own Crash Twinsanity. An odd one, to say the least, because this is the first one that allowed you to play as Cortex. So this was a huge, huge step for this one. And by meaning of playing as Cortex, I mean in an actual single campaign Crash game, not as your mini game ones, just Crash Bash on the last one. But yes, the whole story goes along is that I can't believe I'm going to say this, 2 mutated robotic birds that were Cortex's pets are trying to...
Sounds like fan fiction.
Yeah, I know, right? Trying to...
He's a big fan.
Trying to kill Cortex and Crash. So the 2 of them join forces together in order to take down this enemy. And a lot of the times, you can play as either one, but most of the time, you're stuck together with Crash and Cortex holding a crystal, which I thought is the funniest thing. And there's a lot of combo moves. You can have Crash essentially with the crystal pick Cortex up and use his head as a hammer.
Yep.
Which, obviously violates the concussion protocol, but we're not going to get into the whole logistics of it. You can also throw Cortex to have him like flip certain switches and levers.
Sounds,
And you can
sounds
also
like teamwork.
Yep.
Good
And you can
teamwork
also
there.
be well, what's the saying? Keep your friends close, but keep your enemies closer. This game was definitely based on that scenario. And also, you could be Cortex's niece, Nina, in this, which was a interesting one because she is, the robotic niece of Cortex. And a lot of the times that you had to like swing from place to place, you would jump and her arm would like essentially like shoot out from like a distance and you would grab it. It was the coolest thing in the world. Like, I wish I had that. I wish I had robotic arms that allow me to swing from place to place.
Like Inspector Gadget.
Yeah,
type
well,
arms.
instead you wouldn't, go gadget, no, any of that shit. So. But yes, interesting game, interesting concept with this. We move on to number.
That might have been your
3.
worst impersonation.
That was. I did. I was trying to differentiate between the animated show and the movie.
I was gonna
and
say
confused between
you had
both
2
of them.
choices there.
But we move on to number 3. This was my favorite game for a long time, and this is Crash Bandicoot: The Wrath of Cortex. This game had a lot of things with it. I enjoyed it so much, personally because I enjoyed the elemental mask angle of everything. You're not facing, every one of Cortex's, minions in this. You're facing one boss with a power-up each time. The levels were interesting. They were more like the game, I believe, too, was in 3D. So everything that you went from 2D to 3D is now presented in this. And yeah,
Okay.
It looked a little weird at first, but I thought this was really cool. I thought that, the stages of how they wrapped Crunch's design around each mask was really, really interesting. And like I said, the boss level alone was a pain in the ass, but it kept me going through probably 20 lives or so. Very, very good. Very, very interesting. The levels were exceptionally different than your original Crash games. You had ones where they would take place in the desert. You had some that take place in laboratories, under the sea. Like a lot of different creativity, I think, went into this game, being that I think it was the first game on PS2 from
You can
Crash.
tell him that one.
I'll let him finish.
So, oh wait, let me guess. Am I gonna go?
Denny says you remind him of a minion.
Well, tell him that minions are yellow and they have one eye, so he must be
Wow.
mistaken.
That's
So,
a really good point.
Yeah, and you're orange and you have 2 eyes.
Does Denny not know what a minion is?
I don't know, but I think we
Hype
Hype
train
train
success.
Mark Train.
Woo woo. New hype train emote. Which means I believe Denny should have the train conductor
Uh-oh.
now. Let's see, Denny. Put something in there. Let me see the train.
What we got?
Does he have it?
I don't know. He's not commenting.
No.
Emotes are being delivered to supporters. Everyone in here should have got that. I don't know if it's everyone that participated or everyone gets one.
I think everybody gets one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone thank Dennis for starting the train up, and you all get some emotes. Yins, yins, yins.
Yins, yins. A big part of why I love this game so much, and I'll go on to the next one in a bit.
Oh, he got it.
Same,
Choo-choo.
but different. It's
Choo
interesting.
choo.
You have Crash in a mech suit, which never happens ever. And that mech suit actually shot Wumpa Fruit, which if you shot a villain with a
Thank you,
Wumpa
Danny.
Fruit, they disappear, which is ridiculous because it's a fruit and it's not supposed to, blast a scientist out of oblivion, but that's literally what happened.
It's a super fruit.
Yeah. Love this game though. Again, I think it was the first Crash game that was on PS2, and why I got it. Loved it, and if I had, which I believe Ian still has my PS2, so I think if it was here, I'd be playing it. Let's say that.
Yeah.
Number 2, boys, is the second Crash game.
Yeah, so I got a big issue with this list already then.
Yeah,
I know what number 1 is, and so there's going to be a big issue for this.
So Crash Bandicoot 2, Cortex Strikes Back. This one has again, what started with the crystals and the gem phases. Like, this was the pathway of what Crash games became. Essentially, the whole game revolves around Cortex tricking Crash into supplying crystals so that Cortex can power his space station. And Coco and actually Brio are trying to help Crash, collect gems and everything so that doesn't concur. Obviously, since Cortex dumped Brio for Engine, so obviously Brio would want revenge. A lot of good levels I love, in this game. The polar rides in this game, I love.
Yeah.
You ride your polar bear through obstacle courses and try to miss everything. Although the night one pissed me off to no end because again, you had limited view and more obstacles, but it was a shorter level. So, but again, same premise as like the whole Crash franchise follows a basic formula, and this is what started it. You have 5 levels that you have to go through, collect the crystal, collect the gem if you want to, because you don't have to beat the first part of the game by collecting gems. The main thing you're trying to get is the crystals, and then you can go back like I do and do the gems and the time trials, which
time trials
we'll talk about later with that. But yes, then you fight the bosses, and the Cortex boss on this one almost came in a close second to difficulty because you're riding on a jetpack through space trying to catch up to him, and trying to control this while spinning, it was a really hard. I didn't think it was that hard in the first game. The Vicarious Visions redone one was exceptionally harder, and I don't know. There are a lot of great bosses in this. It started the process, and I loved every second of it.
Donkey Kong franchise harder than Crash franchise. So true. For once, I agree with Elsass. Never played much DK.
Oh, they're turning on you.
Tough. I don't like the Donkey Kong franchise at all. It just wasn't my game. I mean, we'll get into it later, Austin, because when you bring up the debatable, I want to talk about a lot of things pertaining to it. So we'll bring up that comment as well. But I want to get that off before we reach our number one, just so you hear it.
No, that's good. I think never played the Donkey Kong franchise either.
Yeah,
we'll get into it. But the number one game is not the original. The number one game is Crash Bandicoot 3 Warped.
Yeah. I mean, this is the game that introduced motorcycles and boats and jumps, and you're on like jet skis, and it was just the way that you moved around. It genuinely changed Crash Bandicoot from a simple runner to a game that can be anything.
Gotcha.
This opened the doors for a lot of, like, Crash Bash and another game that I'm going to bring up. It opened the doors for a lot of other entities in the Crash universe.
Yeah. The big one for me for this one, for how it was so cool, is the villain in total, which, yes, it's Cortex, and yes, Uka Uka plays a role in it, but the main villain of this one is actually the third boss that you have to face, and that's Dr. Nefarious Tropy. Tropy, but somehow it's not, there's no H in there, so you can't say trophy, so I don't know what the whole deal with that is, but he creates essentially what is a time machine, and all of these levels are from the past. You go back to, when you face Tiny, you're in the Roman Colosseum trying to avoid being fed to the lions. You go back to like medieval times and like Camelot that you have to do. You have to go to underwater. You have to go through all these different time frames. You have to go back to the dinosaur age, which was huge. For this one was different dinosaurs that were popping up. And yes, like Derek said,
you could ride the dinosaurs too.
Yes.
Awesome.
The big one in this one was the motorcycle levels, which you had to like drift off and collect all the boxes and finish first in order to get the crystal. And yeah, games after that provided that number one mentality of trying to finish first in levels. There's one in Wrath of Cortex where you are driving in cars and you have to finish first. That came from this game. The whole premise of this was a different style, a different threat, a new type of scenario. All of this went into making sure that this was the best Crash game of all time. And a lot of people are like, well, you gotta have the original in order to...
So that's not the biggest issue that comes up with this.
Okay, so what is the biggest issue according to you?
So you have set a precedent that the different types of games are more than welcome in here with Crash Bash.
Yes.
The
So I know which one you're gonna say.
Well, because it's the best one. Crash Team Racing.
That's
CTR is the best Crash Bandicoot.
That's
game.
the one I played.
Warped. If you're sticking in the universe of understanding what the games are with like for the storyline, it's Warped. But you added Crash Bash, so that opens up the door that CTR is absolutely in this ranking, and Crash Team Racing is by far, and Matt writes in too. That's fucked. CTR was the best, man.
That's the one I played.
So for me, and I get it.
You're gonna have to answer to Uncle Chipper, by the way.
Well, that's fine.
I'm gonna text him.
Personally, I thought that I wasn't a big fan of the villain in CTR, and we'll talk about that later. But nitrous oxide never struck me as the main, like a bad, like villain, like a good villain to root for or anything. Like he was essentially like, gather all your peoples, like drivers, and try to beat me. It's a weird plot, but I get it. And it paved the way for other racing games,
Austin
with,
just never won. That's
so,
what it was.
well,
He could never win a
if
race.
you couldn't have win, huh? Because to beat that was the tough. In my opinion, that's the toughest bad guy to beat was the last race because the guy cheated and was faster than. And the only way I beat him was, in all seriousness, I hit him with 3 rockets, which normally if you get hit with a rocket, you spin out a bunch of times. In this one, he just spins once and goes. So I had 3 rockets with the Tiger, and when he was about to cross the finish line, I hit him with 3 rockets, pow, 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 and then passed him up to win. Otherwise, that's the only time I've ever won that. And it was because I just happened to have the correct weapon at the right time with the Tiger.
See, Austin didn't have that. That's why I didn't put it on his list.
It's a good point. I'm going to stick with my original list, but I get it, and you know what? That'll be in the chat.
Matt says, no, you don't get it.
I get it. With a robot winky face, so we'll get that. But yeah, those in my mind are the top 5 Crash Bandicoot games. Obviously, you have your differentials, your arguments, which will be taken into consideration. And what we are going to talk about now, gentlemen, is our great debate. Were you and obviously we're probably going to add some other elements, like Derek said, into this, but the initial argument was, are you a Crash Bandicoot player, or were you a Spyro player? Because it was one of the before you say anything, Dig, like you were either one or the other, and you were proven that when Game Boy actually released 2 specific games that swapped Crash Bandicoot and Spyro in each other's worlds. You had Crash Purple and Spyro Orange.
Yep.
And that simplified down to a spectrum of it was either you're a Crash player or you're a Spyro player. But yes, Derek, go ahead, buddy.
So, Crash Bandicoot and Spyro the Dragon are 2 of the most prominent PlayStation universes they've created. PlayStation, has a lot of shows, or has a lot of the shows, the one I'm thinking of, has a lot of games that are just for it, which in recent memory on Uncharted, MLB The Show. None of their games past the game I'm going to mention for Halo have surpassed what Halo did for Microsoft. But at that same time, in that same breath, CTR and Spyro were for what? And Chipster writes in, there he is. I texted him. He's here, guys. Sorry, I played both. He is right. We were a household that played both games very, very aggressively.
Yeah.
For me, in terms of which game I played more, I was more Crash because of CTR. Nico was much more Spyro. That all being said, I liked Spyro because it was, and the way I was wording this to Votesh, Spyro is almost complete open world where you have the ability to check out different areas of the world and play all these different mini games in the universe. Crash is very much a left to right runner where you have levels, and it evolved a little bit through its time, but it just depends what you want. Because for me, Spyro was like, oh cool, I'm gonna go to this planet and I'm gonna skate for like 6 hours, because the one skateboarding one, I thought that was really cool. There was one where you played hockey, I thought was cool, but they're all in the universe where there's other things. Crash is a left to right runner that has some levels that incorporate minigame feels and minigame games. So it just depends what you're more in the mood for.
Yeah,
What about you? What do you got?
I played more Spyro also, but like I don't know if I ever actually had the full game. Like I had like those demo discs on for PS1. Do you remember those?
Oh yeah.
Had like several
Right.
different games. I played
Oh,
Spyro.
yeah.
There was one with the guy had like pink hair. Do you remember that game?
Pink hair.
Pink hair. There were like pigs and stuff. It was like a Spyro type game, but I can't remember what it was called. I'm
But
gonna
it
look
wasn't
up.
Spyro.
It wasn't Spyro. It was some
Was
other.
it Toomba?
Toomba?
Yeah.
It was Toomba.
Toomba.
That was one of the games like I played all the time. I couldn't beat the last level, and that made me mad. Probably still can't beat it today.
Here's a nice comparison, I'll say. Would you say that kind of Spyro rivals? Let's say this. Spyro had the blueprint to give birth to, let's say, a game like Jak and Daxter.
Yeah, that's closer. That makes more sense.
What was the other one? Ratchet and Clank.
Yeah, that's another one that people are. You were either Jak.
I
or-
played that
Jak
one a
and
lot,
Daxter or
too.
Ratchet and Clank.
Chip says, but
Yeah.
CTR not making the list surprises me less than Black Parade. LOL.
Oh, haha. When I was a young boy, I used to play CTR. Thanks, Chip.
You didn't though.
You
'cause it's
didn't.
not in the
It's
top
on the
5.
list. That's the one I played.
I'm gonna
You
fight.
missed it.
But
yeah.
let's say that, yeah. So Spyro's concept of being open world brought about like games like Jak and Daxter, where you could do all of you could go by what the game wanted you to do. You could collect this many power cells and move on. Or you could do like what I did, and I stayed and I collected all of the power cells from that particular area.
Yep.
And then moved on. So I wouldn't have to keep going back and forth. And there's different side quests and everything that you did too. But for me, boys, like I was, Spyro is great, but I'm always just a Crash boy. I was just brought that way. I love the games. And yeah, I know, like, in my mind, maybe I'd play CTR over Spyro. That's all I'm saying.
Some other notable franchises to throw out there. Obviously, Josh said Donkey Kong, which has an extensive universe there. You said Dax and Jak, which was a big one. The one that I think is arguably the single most unappreciated game series of all time, Sly Cooper.
Ooh, yeah, yep.
I
That one
don't.
was coming up because I
I
know
don't
you
think I
had
remember
game
that
too.
one.
Sly Cooper, which I have up, is about a raccoon and his two friends. One's a turtle and one's a hippo.
Oh,
And they're
okay.
crime bosses basically.
Okay.
And he goes around, and it is one of the funnest universe of a game, the way it evolves through different forms, but amazing. So I wanted to throw that in there.
There was Ape Escape. Do you
Ape
remember
Escape was
playing that?
great.
Yep.
Then there was
Yeah.
one with a gecko that was kind of like Spyro, but I can't remember what that one was called.
Let's see.
There's another one on those demo discs. They had a bunch of good games on there.
Oh, Gex Enter the Gecko.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a
Wow.
and I can't
Gex,
think
yeah.
of, and maybe maybe you said it.
Gex, yeah.
There
Josh.
was a game franchise with almost an Islander type looking character.
the Fishman.
The
Like it
Fishman?
was
Fisherman.
almost like you would find on like like an island or whatever, like a secluded island.
Oh, I
And he
thought
had
you
a
meant
twig.
New York
I think
Islanders.
twig is actually what it says, somewhat a T, but it's like twig or something, and you just
Tomb
go around.
Raider.
Well, I don't think that's right. But,
It could be.
um,
Man, Ape Escape was so good.
Ape
that's-
Escape was a
that's
good one.
like that.
Josh
sounds
says, I'm
cool.
thinking I was the only Nintendo kid. No, I mean, I grew up with a Sega Genesis to Nintendo 64 to PlayStation
Earthworm
Original
Jim.
to Xbox and PS2. Earthworm Jim chips right in. I mean, that's a tremendous
I don't
series.
think I know what that is.
Do you know what Earthworm Jim is?
I don't think so.
It's an earthworm that shoots. You
Well,
can
what
launch
was that
pigs.
on? What system was that on?
Sega.
See,
Genesis.
my
I
first
think.
system was PS1.
Oh, man. Were you Mormon?
I was not.
Okay.
I am now, though.
Okay. Well, that's worth a shot. I mean, Sonic the Hedgehog deserves to be talked about in
Sonic,
this.
yeah.
We can get into the old ones like Legend of Zelda and Mega
Just say
Man.
Mario comes to mind for like that. Like
So, see, Josh, that's a negative connotation. He says, did Jins play Super Nintendo or just N64? No, I played N64 because we were a Sega Genesis. You jagmuffin. Oh, GameCube, Matt.
Mhm.
My neighbor had a
Yeah.
PlayStation. No, yeah, Josh, I was just N64. GameCube was one of the best game consoles ever.
GameCube was actually the first system I bought. So I was we had a PlayStation 2 that was like, gifted to us, but I spent my own money and I bought a GameCube and I bought Godzilla Destroy All Monsters and basically played it for hours and days and weeks, obviously, because I love the whole damn thing. It was great.
Yeah. Metal Gear Solid is a big one.
That's
you
another
played that
one,
on us, yeah.
So we're saying that you guys are Spyro boys and I'm a Crash boy. So we'll say that.
We'll say that.
Well, I said I
agree
was
with
Crash
that.
and Nico was Spyro.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. So, yeah, 4 and 4. Okay. We move on. That was a great debate. I feel like we could go into it, obviously, a lot more of just the different franchises of gaming and everything that we have. What would be better. But
Josh, was your first system a Super Nintendo? Because I feel like we talked about this, but I
He had
can't
an
remember.
Atari.
Oh boy.
Is that an old joke, or does he actually have an Atari?
He probably had an Atari.
Okay,
It's
I just-
also an old joke.
Okay. I just want
Once I played an Atari back in my day.
but-
original Nintendo. Okay, that makes sense. I like that. All right, what do we got, us?
We move on from the great debate to our final segment, boys. It's the final ranking, the official ranking of tonight's Crash Bandicoot themed show. And we are going with the top 10 Crash Bandicoot villains. So obviously, there are a multitude of them throughout how many games that are played. These 10 are by far the best 10. Like, there's no other option. Like, if there are, I would love to see this, and as we always do, myself, we will put these out on social, and you can argue till you are blue in the face.
You can yell at Austin. He gets that a
Yell at
lot.
me.
Yeah,
you
less
can-
people
no,
came
he
here to
puts
yell
them
at you
on.
about the sports movies take than I expected.
So, I know, right? A lot of people say
They don't
they're
want to hurt
gonna
his
do stuff,
feeling.
but no,
They
no
want to
feeling.
hurt your feelings.
Again,
Chip says my
Telling-
first system was Pong.
All right, boys. Let's get into this. The top 10 Crash Bandicoot villains. Number 10, Ripper Roo.
Ripper Root.
Yup.
The crazy, insane dog that always faced you was almost the first boss that you faced every time at the beginning of the games. I know he was the first boss you faced, I believe, on the second Crash game, Cortex Strikes Back. I believe Papu Papu was the first one on the first game. But Crash, Ripper Roo, was also the first boss you faced in CTR.
Yeah.
Basically, just a dog in a straitjacket that is insane. And he does a lot of bouncing, and half the time in order to beat him was when he bounced, he would land on TNT, and then he would create nitrous. I don't know why I blanked there for a second. Nitrous crates. And you would have to avoid all of these and for him to bounce on the last nitrous crate, and then for you to hit him. Obviously, those levels are not very hard. You just, again, memory system and just trying to beat him. So we move from number 10 to number 9, which is Derek's hardest boss that he said, nitrous oxide
Makes
from
this list.
CTR. Again, I like him. It's just that I didn't feel like I beat him in like 2 times. That's why I was like, not like, oh, this guy's not that great of a boss. Like, it felt like he was more just a weird ass alien that you could throw on the screen and people would be intimidated by just his appearance alone
Yeah.
and how big his car was and everything. So, I mean, he's still good. I love the voice and everything that's done by him, and I love that he basically gave the people of Earth a shot. He was like, you have to find all the best drivers and then you can beat me. If not, then I'll leave. Like, you just had to beat him and then he left. Like, if I lost, I would have just still blown up the planet, but that's fine by me. A man of his word is nitrous oxide as we move on from number 9 to number 8. The ever muscular, tiny-brained, tiny tiger.
He doesn't really look like a tiger.
Well,
Just point that out.
I know.
I mean,
He's not tiny either.
I think that's a play on word, though. But
it's like when we are like, oh, Vo's so good at his job. It's like,
Yeah,
he
I'm
definitely looks
great.
like a tiger.
I'm great. You're right.
It's quick.
Tiny was basically, I mean, he's essentially a grunt. Like, no say, like, I will do the job you asked me to do. I'm the tiger, yes. Was
Does he
able
actually
to
sound like that?
That's kind of what it sounds like. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
The best
kinda,
episode was the Coliseum, or the
yes,
best level.
exactly, in Warped, where he played essentially a general, and forced lions out of the cages in order to eat you. Very, very easy to beat, though. All you had to do essentially was jump around different places, and he would get himself stuck in a position, and you would just hit him.
Yep.
And you would do that 2 more times, and that'd be it. I believe he was the first boss in Crash Warped with that, so not very hard. Just a great grunt character to hold. We move on to number 7. Cortex's first right-hand man, Dr. Nitrous Brio. He's not in too many games, which is why people are probably like, why is he at 7? But the impact that he had to the beginning was astonishing, that they would can him after 1 game. You know, just the ability. I don't know what if engine was better, or if they just like thought that you know a guy probably drinking different chemicals probably isn't what we want to send a message to kids playing the game. But overall, Brio's character, I've seen him played in the original Crash. Excuse me. I've seen him do with Crash Bash and how that works.
Mm-hmm.
He is a genuinely interesting character, to say the least. But we move on to number 6, which might be cheating, but I don't think it is.
Austin cheating? No.
No, never.
No.
Come on now, boys. Give me some credit here. Number 6 is Crash Bandicoot and the Elementals.
That sounds like a band
Crunch.
name.
Yeah,
Could
it
be
really
a
does.
great band name.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
This technically has
Or not.
4 villains in it. I don't know how, but with this, you essentially have Crunch, who was engineered by Cortex,
Big crunch guy.
brainwashed
Captain
to do
Crunch.
what he pleased, and he had a different elemental mass to give him a power for 4 different boss fights. Rock, which he was able to, in one of the levels you are encapsulated in a ball, and you have to like roll around and like in order to escape. Well, they do the same thing for this boss fight, except that he is put in just a bunch of rocks, and he rolls around and tries to hit you. The water one was difficult because you were on a flooded world, and it was flooding. So he had all the water around you to basically do what he wanted. Fire was interesting because he was encorpsed in kind of like an ash armor, and you had to use the mech suit in order to cool him off of water in order to beat him. And then finally, probably my favorite boss fight with him was when he was with Wind. He was a giant cloud monster, and you had a plane that you shot different parts of his body in order to weaken him while avoiding all his other attacks. All of these boss fights with the final one make Crunch, even though he was a villain for only this game with the Elementals, made him a threat. And it's very happy to know that he is on the side of good in the Bandicoots.
Yep.
Well, we move on to number 5. Probably Ian's favorite
This one's
villain.
my favorite by far.
Yeah. This is Dingo Dial.
He's got a cool name. I feel like he's
He's a
probably be my
dingo and a
favorite.
crocodile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he has a sweet accent, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Down under. Throw another shrimp on the barbie. Yeah. That's my
Every
first
game
answer.
that he's in is absolutely hilarious, especially with ones. They've redone his design so many times, but they always kind of make him like almost hillbilly like. They give him like the what are those like with the pants that snap up here? What are those?
Suspenders.
Suspenders. Thank you.
Overalls.
They go down
Suspenders,
under.
Yes.
Down under.
They give him the suspenders. They
Yeah.
give him the flamethrower, and they give him the accent every time. And he's like, "Well, what am I supposed to do now that you're over here? I need my food." Like just very, very funny in how he presents himself with this. Again, probably my favorite one with him is the boss fight with Warped. It's great.
The boss fight.
Boss fight with Warp Day. You don't
With
know it's
Warp.
coming.
Dingoes.
Dingo Dial. But we move
Dingo.
on from Dingo Dial to number 4, which is Dr. Engine. This is a weird character. Like, it's when you have a rocket sticking out of your head.
Wait. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Whoa, 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 whoa. Whoa,
Uh-oh.
whoa, 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 whoa.
That wasn't the 4 I had.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
What?
Somebody's wrong.
Whoa, it's Austin.
No?
Austin's wrong.
Look at the text messages, everybody. Will.
Number 4 is not.
Is it trophy?
Yeah.
Trophy.
Trophy.
Trophy
well.
without the H.
No. I have it on here, but well, you could very much switch these two either way, so we'll be fine. It doesn't matter.
See, I didn't agree
Number
with him, so I switched
4.
them.
The ranking was wrong.
I don't think I am. But
I think.
He said this was Engine. But it's
number
not.
4, let's just
Who's
argue
in
with
those
the fact that it's
characters?
Dr. N Trophy. Let's say the least. The main boss behind Crash Bandicoot 3 Warped. For how that works. I know you're putting it to the screen. I know. Doesn't happen anytime. Let's just go and say that this is what it is. Trophy was interesting because he was very sophisticated when he talked, and he also brought what was known as the time trials. For every time that you needed to beat the game completely, you would have to go through a time trial, and you would have to hit different time boxes in order to stop the clock and finish in the fastest time. Trophy actually is the 3rd boss in Warped, which was weird that they put him at that because the way that they talked him up, it seemed like he was going to be the final boss, that he designed everything, but he's essentially a master of time, and he loves, just causing havoc and trying to better himself to Uka Uka and Cortex as best as he can. I hear he has a significant role in Crash 4, which I'm very, very excited about to try here. Again, I have not heard. All the videos are online, but I have not watched. I have not previewed anything. I'm very, very excited to hopefully get the 4th Crash game and play it because I've been wanting a new Crash title since 3, and we're about to get it. Now, number 3.
Oh God, who is it?
Doctor.
I wonder who. Who is it?
Oh no. Dr. Engine.
All right, you're no longer allowed to drink Bud Light seltzers on any Thoughts on the Bench platform because you've been burping this entire night.
I don't know why. I'm normally not a
It's a
burper.
ginger one, I'm telling you.
Yeah, I think it might be the ginger one.
Probably was. No more ginger ones.
You should drink the peppermint one.
I'd rather
Be
drink
burping
nothing.
snowflakes.
Snowflakes and chocolate.
Tell you what, though. Engine is a weird character. Like, the fact that he has a rocket sticking out of his head alone is
That's
a
pretty
miracle that he's
sweet.
not. He should be dead, though. Like,
No.
he has a rocket in his head. But I get it's a game. You want people to look as menacingly as you can. And we established that once Brio left, Engine was the main minion of Cortex.
Minion.
This is the one that made all of the machinery, all of the things to try to make the plans go along the way they're supposed to. And I loved every Engine boss fight because it was just another mech suit that we just had to take down. And all the transitions were amazing with it.
Yep.
So
I don't like that cat.
yeah, I just weird that he had like just a weird.
He
was just weird.
He kind of looks like Dexter from Dexter's Lab. Just with a rocket.
It's actually not the worst thing ever.
Yeah, it's not a bad
Mixture of
theory.
Dexter and Chucky, the doll.
Okay, now we move on to number 2. The evil mask Uka Uka.
This is my number 1.
Yep.
Just because I like his name.
The masks are amazing. You put them on,
Yeah.
you're literally invincible, and it's awesome.
Uka Uka, his voice alone
Uka
was
Uka.
always menacing. And the fact that he was sort of the main villain, pulling all the strings. Like, essentially, Cortex was his minion, but, in later games, you would, argue that maybe it was reversed or vice versa. But Uka Uka was the one trying to get all the plans together. He was the one that employed Cortex because he freed him from a prison. And naturally, since Aku Aku was was Crash's guardian, Uka Uka became Cortex's. And a really cool element that we face in Crash Twinsanity is actually Uka Uka as a boss on his own. You are with Crash and Cortex, obviously, and Uka Uka, who is frozen, employs a glacier-like body in order to try to crush you. But very, very cool. Very, very way of how this is done. Uka Uka probably the most menacing mask out of all of them. Obviously, since, Aku Aku is more like, hey, man, relax. Everything's going to be all right. Kind of thing.
Nailed it.
I mean, we assume what number 1 is, right? Like,
Crash.
haha. Yeah, the number 1 Crash Bandicoot villain is
Spyro.
Neo Cortex.
Should be Spyro.
I don't know if they're technically enemies. I mean, it's a good try, but I don't know if they're I would love to see a Crash versus Spyro matchup.
Yeah.
There was a PlayStation game, I think, that took like all of the main characters from their respective games and kind of did like a battle royale kind of thing.
Huh.
And like Ratchet and Clank, Jack and Dexter, Crash, Spyro, like all these.
That'd be pretty sweet.
Oh yeah.
I don't think I ever
I just
played
have
that
to
one.
remember which one it is, but yes. The villain that started it all, right? Like Cortex, in his bumbling foolishness, is a reason that we keep loving to play these games, except for the fact that you almost feel bad for him every time that he loses, because he's just trying to be an evil genius. That's just what he knows how to do, and a person or a marsupial that he created is spoiling all those plans. So he's just trying to do his thing, and he just can't get it right half the time. In fact,
It's kind of like
they
the
go in
ranking.
depth on his past a lot in Twinsanity, and how he graduated from like evil genius school, and like all the teachers were like, he doesn't have what it takes, and you're just like, come on, man, like let him do he just wants to take over the world, like let him do his thing. But yes, he was the one that created Crash, so without him we wouldn't have it, and we wouldn't have all these games. So
Yep.
Number 1 villain. So again, we'll do a little recap, Bo, if you got him.
Ready whenever you are.
Ready whenever I am. How thoughtful of you, good sir. We go.
I'm not ready.
Well, then let me know when you're ready.
I'm ready.
Okay. Number 10, we have Ripperoo.
Chip says wow, though.
Wow.
9, we have Nitrous Oxide. Number
Give him
8,
Chip.
we have Tiny Tiger. Number 7, we have Dr. Nitrous Brio. Number 6, we have Crunch Bandicoot and the Elemental Masks.
Great
Number
band
5,
name.
what?
Great band name.
Great band name, yes.
Yeah.
Number 5, we have Dingo Dial. Number 4, we have Dr. Entropy. Number 3, we have Engine. Number 2, we have Uka Uka. And number 1, we have
Uka.
Dr. Neo Cortex. Again, we will put these out on social for you guys to see if you're
We'll
a big
drive
Crash
over on
guy.
Thanksgiving and beat his ass, Dad. Because CTR should be on that list.
I'll put this to you actually want to do this? Like,
My dad could beat up your dad.
Family Feud.
Well, him and they're like they were best friends their entire lives, and not that Chipper ain't slugfest, but Uncle Terry was a collegiate wrestler, so we'll have to see how that. I still got Chipper.
I got Chip.
Yeah, sorry,
Let's
Terry.
Stand with Chip. Even though he
Let's-
said
let's-
wow, though. Why do you say wow?
Let's
'Cause you
just
suck
bet,
at your
let's just
job.
bet money on how I'm fighting the yard for all people to see. We'll see how it works that way. But yes, thank you guys for tuning
There's
in.
another comment, Austin. Could you read it?
Oh, I will gladly read it. 1 second. Both of your dads could beat up my dad.
I wasn't reading that one.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been a very interesting RankKing's court, to say the
Always
least.
is. Always is.
Always is. We will put these on social. Judge it how you want. I am the correct one. Always has. Always will be.
No.
But I appreciate the chatter. among the townspeople.
Great.
Just,
I perked up because I was waiting for you to say peasant. So.
Nope. Be a townspeople though. Be a townsperson, and don't be a peasant.
Yeah.
That's what I'm telling you.
Be a townie.
Be better than Dre. That's all I'm saying.
Wow.
Be
Put
better
that
than
on a
Dre.
shirt.
Put that on a shirt.
Hashtag better than Dre because you said the Rank King.
I did.
Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for tuning in. We'll be here next week, 6:30, with a new topic, and we'll see how this works. Boys, court's adjourned.
We'll see you guys next week.
You're not supposed to talk after court's adjourned. When it's adjourned, it's a fucking adjourned.
I work in the courts. I know when it's adjourned.
Apparently you don't.
It's adjourned now. See ya.
Bye.